We are now going to go ahead and continue our media availabilities. We are now joined by David Ragan, driver of the number 38 ExploriaResorts.com Forward for Front Row Motorsports. Thanks for joining us, David. Can you tell us a little bit about the sponsor that you have on your car this weekend, ExploriaResorts.com?
Yeah, I was there earlier today. I didn't want to come to the racetrack. I wanted to stay there and hang out by the swimming pool. Yeah, Explorer Resorts, they've got a lot of properties in destination towns around America and happen to have a few here in the Poconos, so it's great to have them on our Ford Mustang this weekend. Explorer Resorts also has some in Daytona Beach, Orlando, some places near Bristol, around Dollywood, and some of the areas in Tennessee. So it's neat to have a company that has a lot of race fans staying at their places here in the Poconos this weekend for some action, and I was able to visit them this morning, then head out for some practice later on today. So it worked out good, and happy to be out here at the racetrack and making some laps.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If you have one, please raise your hand, and we'll get a mic over to you. We'll go to Bob over here to the right.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. How much are you lifting and or braking in 1 and 3, and is that any different than what you thought coming in?
It's pretty similar to what I thought. I mean, the teams have so much data, and simulation is very, very accurate when you put in engine models and aero maps into a simulator. You can pretty much be 95 to 99% accurate when you show up close. And so I would say we're using 50% less brakes about everywhere. 250 to 300 pounds getting into turn 1, which is the most, and then 50 to 100 pounds lightly dragging the brakes into the tunnel turn and in turn 3. A lot of it will depend on what kind of run you get in traffic, but by yourself, that's pretty consistent by yourself. So 50 to 60% less than what we had here a year ago.
We'll come down here to Zach.
Zach Sterniolo, Pocono Record. Were you able to drive in traffic at all during that practice session? Were you able to learn anything that might help for Sunday?
A little bit, yeah. I got out there around a couple of cars within 5 or 10 car lengths. I passed one, somebody passed me, and the cars were pretty stable and predictable, and I felt like that handling is still very, very important, and it's a good mixture of who can trim their car out to go very fast down the straightaway, but you also have to handle through the corners. If you don't stay in the throttle, if you don't drive off of turn 3, straight and throttled up, you're going to pay the price down the whole front straightaway. So it'll be interesting to see. I know all the crew chiefs and engineers right now are probably burning their computers up trying to figure out that sweet spot to find for final practice and for the race on Sunday.
Tim Ketterfam, WRC Sports. David, do you miss shifting at all at Pocono?
I do a little bit. Yeah, that makes it a little bit more interesting, exciting from the driver's standpoint. I don't know that from the fans' perspective or from a TV perspective you would be able to tell the difference. But from a driver's perspective, I felt like it did give you some more options. If you messed up a corner, you could downshift. If you got through there in clean air, you didn't have to. It just gave options, and drivers do like options. And I'm not really sure what NASCAR's incentive was to prevent us from shifting. But, I don't think you'll see any of that this weekend.
Are there any other questions for David? We'll go right over here to the right.
Hey, David. Dexter Henry from AccuWeather. Weather question. How much does weather affect your preparation every time you take a race?
Well, I have the AccuWeather app, and I use it pretty regular, and it's something that, we're all wannabe meteorologists in the garage. I think we definitely pay attention to the temperature, to the amount of sunlight that you have on the racetrack, because that dictates the asphalt temperature, which dictates the amount of rubber that's laid down. So that's something we pay attention to very closely. And like I said, every driver, crew chief, and engineers a wannabe meteorologist. And with all the great weather apps and stuff that you have at your disposal, it's easy to get a lot of information. So I do look at it fairly regular. My wife majored in meteorology, and so that is something that we kind of act like that old couple. We'll sit around and just have the Weather Channel on the background sometimes and just watching it. So, we pay attention to it very closely.
We'll come right down here. Scott?
Scott Walsh from the Scranton Times-Tribune. David, coming off the 15th-place finish last week at Charlotte, what's kind of just been the week like coming in here? A little more pep in the step, coming off a good run like that, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. Anytime you can run well in a race, you feel good going into the next weekend. I think we had a better car than a 15th place car, but the way the scenario worked out at the end, that's where we ended up. But it was encouraging that we did find some speed in our cars. We do have some newer cars at Front Row Motorsports that we're bringing out over the next 3 or 4 weeks into the summer months based off of things we learned, the first third of the season. So it was encouraging that we feel like we have better race cars coming through the pipeline now. And anytime you can run well in a big marquee event like the Coca-Cola 600 in our hometown track of Charlotte Motor Speedway for our race team, that was that was a fun race. It was good from my perspective, and I don't know that anything from that week will correlate setup-wise to Pocono, but anytime you can race in the top 10 and get a top 10 or 15 finish, that's good for any team, and certainly for Front Row Motorsports.
Any last questions? All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
David. Good
Thank
luck
you
this
guys for
weekend.
coming out.